to the ChamberPod. My name is Christine Mudvanhu. I am your host, and today is Wednesday, where we are talking about all things related to wealth. We have our in-house expert, Wedzerai Garwe, a director of A Better Way Financial Partners. And he is here today to give us his insights into personal wealth management and personal finances. Welcome, Wedzi.
Thank you, Christine.
Well, it's great to have you here. Now, Wedzi, this is your first time on the podcast, and you're our in-house expert. But our audience would like to know a little bit about who you are. Could you just tell us a bit about your background and how you come to be in the financial planning industry?
I actually grew up in Zimbabwe. That's where I'm from. And I moved to Australia straight after high school. Studied at Griffith University, and then following that, I've been in the financial services industry ever since about 2007. So starting off working for GE Money, so I used to be a debt collector, and everybody loved me back then. They greeted me with a song on their lips and love in their heart. Just kidding.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can so see the song and dance.
So I did that for a little while. I also worked for NRMA Insurance for some time, where I sold and did customer service for their general insurance products. Post that, I worked for National Australia Bank for a few years, and I worked in their mortgage services centre, where we assessed and approved home loans. And while I was there, that's when I met a gentleman who introduced me to the financial planning industry. He had already been in it for maybe about 20 years or so, and he just thought, with my personality, coupled with the work experience that I had, that I would be a good fit for it, and that's how I fell into financial planning.
Oh, excellent. So really, based on what you've described, you have actually got experience in various areas. You started in the debt collection space, you've got a bit of insurance background, you've got a little bit of banking in there as well, so you've actually done the full gamut. Now, with the financial planning industry, there's been a lot of changes that have come about in the industry. We've heard about the Royal Commission and some of the upheavals that have changed in that industry. So from a layman's perspective, what does that mean for, first of all, for the industry, but secondly, for the mum and dads and the people that are your clients?
So it's definitely been a lot of change as a result of the Royal Commission. But I remember when I started in financial planning in late 2013, there was already talk of all these changes coming, and some of the changes had already started. One of the biggest issues was you had a lot of investment products back in the day that would actually pay a commission, and that left little room for the advisor to then be accountable to follow up and make sure that this person was invested properly, continually doing the right thing, making the most of their money. Because for the financial advisor, so long as they set up this account, and so long as the client continued to put money in it and the asset built up, they would continue to get paid into perpetuity until whenever the client actually then withdraws everything out of that account. The government wanted more accountability, and to make sure that these clients are actually paying money, because the commissions don't just come from the institutions. They actually come from the client. The end customer is the one that pays for everything, as we all know in business. And they've introduced measures where previously you had the commissions, now you've got advice fees.
Okay.
And those advice fees can be charged in a few different ways. Some will charge it on a percentage basis. Some will do a flat dollar fee. We had some ongoing service arrangements where they would continually go on until the client actually said stop. But more recently with the Royal Commission, because the government realised after they'd introduced the advice fees that some advisors could put a client in an ongoing arrangement and maybe only see them once every 3 years or maybe once every 5 years, but they were still paying this whole time and not really getting any service. So now we've got annual advice agreements where every single year it's an annual contract. When that contract ends, the payments stop, so the advisor is actually forced to make sure that they see the clients. Otherwise, if they don't see the clients, they're not getting paid. So it's a benefit to the client in the sense that the advisor is kept accountable, and they're more likely to have their stuff up to date. than a client, let's say, 10 years ago.
So on that point, I think it's really, really important for people who are watching to actually understand that there's now an increased level of transparency and accountability, which
Yes.
wasn't there before. So that's one of the real benefits from what
Yes.
I'm hearing you say.
Definitely.
That has come out of the Royal Commission. And so with these advice fees being separated from the Commission, do you then have to disclose to your clients the levels of commission, or that, you know, when you're talking to them about a particular product, that you as a financial advisor are getting a commission out of that? So is that level of disclosure also required now?
Yes, definitely. There is definitely more transparency. So there are still some things that pay commission. So if you got an insurance product, generally the advisor may take a commission on that. They do, however, have the option not to.
Okay.
But most people would prefer to pay through a commission than to actually pay a fee.
Okay.
I think maybe it's a psychological thing for them. With the flat dollar fees, they have obviously to disclose what the amount is before you even enter into that advisor-client relationship, and they have to tell you as well what they're actually going to do for you for that amount. So there's two levels of accountability there, because if they don't give you the services that they've said they're going to provide to you, they actually have an obligation to refund some of that money in some instances.
Oh, excellent, excellent. So there's increased transparency, there's increased accountability. So that relationship of trust between advisor and client is really, really a critical one. So you mentioned before that, you know, your mentor who got you into this space said your personality was aligned to that. How do you feel your personality has contributed as a factor in terms of you building your client base and growing and, you know, getting around the industry and really being comfortable in providing the service?
I think it's probably maybe a quality that sometimes is underrated, because, you know, there's something to having a care factor for the people that you look after. You know, where I guess just like any other job, you know, you could even have a tradie who comes to do a job at your house, but, you know, they don't really care about you know, making sure that the job is done properly. They'll just do some base level job, and you know, they're really there to collect their paycheck. And the same thing happens with financial advice, where, you know, you will have some people, most are in it for the right reasons, but you will have some, you know, that are really there to just get the money off the client and go. And part of the reasons why my mentor encouraged me to do so is because I was actually serving under his wife at church, and it's just the way that I went about talking to people when they came around to our stand, and the amount of time that I would spend with them, that she noted that I probably had a little bit more of a care factor. I wasn't just having conversation for the sake of just having conversation. You know, I was really interested in the people that I was talking to, and I would spend really good quality time with them. You know, when I even think about that, I think about when I worked for NRMA Insurance, because we had targets, we had goals, and my manager would want me to move on to the next caller and the next caller and the next caller, so we can try to get as many sales as we could. But I opted to spend more time with my clients, but then that resulted in like a higher conversion rate, because people generally are drawn towards the fact that you care more than how much you know, because you can always figure things out, but you can't change what's in you.
Definitely, excellent. Yeah, no, that's excellent. Now, just a bit back to sort of people understanding how the financial planning industry works. Now, you're a director of a company called A Better Way Financial Planner, but you're also an authorized representative of AMP. What does that mean?
I have my business, A Better Way Financial Partners, but in order to run a financial planning business in Australia, you need to be licensed. So not anyone on the street can just be an advisor because they choose to, or because they've done some studies. You actually have to go through like a strict vetting process. They do background checks, police checks, to make sure that they've got the right people in the industry, because the stuff that we do, like it can literally change someone's life. You know, if you make a mistake, that could mean, you know, someone's life is in ruins, and you could ruin someone's retirement. You really leave someone in a bad spot. But on the flip side, you can also do some really good stuff, which means someone can retire very comfortably. Minimize the amount of interest that they pay to the banks. Minimize the amount of tax that they give away to the government, because you know the tax system is set up in such a manner. The government wants to collect tax for the right reasons, but then there's certain things that they're like, you know, if you do this, you can keep more of your money to be able to look after your family, or whether to give to charity, various things that you would actually be helping the government in a roundabout way to do. Generally wants you to do things that look after yourself, look after your future, and also to provide jobs in the economy, as well as provide housing.
Yeah, which makes sense, because that indirectly reduces the cost to government themselves, because they don't want to look after you in retirement. They want to make sure that you set yourself up to look after yourself. I think one of the things, or one of the misconceptions that's out there is that financial planning is for people who have money. So what do you say to people who are just in a full-time job, or a lot of our audience who are small business owners, who think that they don't need the services of someone like yourself, an expert like yourself? What is the value to them of having a financial planner?
I guess what people don't realize is the impact that financial planning has is minimizing some of the financial mistakes that people make that can result in them in a very bad spot down the track. And financial planning is for everyone. It's not just for the wealthy people, because if you think about it, everyone has to start from somewhere. You know, you've got someone who's just finished high school, started working. They're going to get like a superannuation account when they start working. You know, and they need to know how they make sure the money that's going into that superannuation account is invested well for them, because that superannuation account is probably going to be their biggest asset when they retire, 30 or 40 years from the time they actually start working. And nobody is teaching people about those things outside of financial advisors for the most part.
And that's interesting. One of the things, I'm a mom, so I have a teenage son, and one of the things that really, really baffles me is how little financial literacy there is in the school curriculum. So you're saying from your perspective that it's really, really important for everybody to have financial literacy, that it's really, really critical, but not just to have financial literacy, but to have financial literacy from somebody who actually knows and is authorized to give that financial advice.
Absolutely.
What have been some of the, I guess, the mistakes that you have seen people make when they don't seek financial advice? So, what are some of the top things that you've seen?
I'll give you an example of, actually to go back to touching on your previous question as well about, is it important for business owners and things of that nature?
Yep.
Because for business owners, the job that they do running a business, making sure everything is working within the business for themselves as well as for everyone else in the business, is very consuming, that they can sometimes neglect their own personal situation. And they get to a stage where they've had enough. Maybe they're like in their 50s or in their 60s, and they don't want to do it anymore. And if they haven't set themselves up correctly, in some instances, depending on the type of business, you may actually have a business that you can't resell to someone else. So it's literally close the doors, and then there's nothing from that point on. And if you haven't invested well, then that could end up very badly for your family in terms of your retirement. So as a business owner, every single business owner has a responsibility to make sure that they are also contributing into their own superannuation account, because sometimes it's not mandatory for business owners to do so. And there's some things where if they would have put a good financial plan in place, that may mean that like some of their money is sheltered from creditors. In case, let's say, they had a business partner and things went wrong within the business, and for whatever reason, touch wood, that never happens to anybody, they had to go bankrupt. Some of your money could actually be sheltered in some legal entities that are permissible, where the government is actually making that allowance, so you have that level of protection because they know things can go wrong. However, you are, providing a service to the community by providing employment, but we also need you to, they're recognizing that we also need you to look after yourself, because if you don't, at some point, the government is going to have to be the one that's looking after that individual, whether through Centrelink or other means.
That's really, really critical. I think one of the points that I've picked up from the conversation that we've had today is that financial planning is for everybody, and for small business owners in particular, you're not superannuation, as an example, is not a compulsion, whereas people who are employed, it's a compulsion. And so neglecting super and neglecting some of the benefits or understanding some of the benefits around that, it's actually to your detriment as a small business owner. So it's really, really critical then as a small business owner to engage the likes of yourself, Wedzi, and other people in the industry who actually know and understand all these different products. And these are the conversations we're going to be having on a Wednesday, topics that are really going to be game changers for you. So we really are inviting people to tune in on a Wednesday. We will have Wedzi answering different questions. We will deep dive into different topics around cash flow, around investing, around just better management of products that are already available, better tax planning, all of those things which are critical for you as small business owners to be thinking about. And these are things that are beyond just what your accountant will be talking to you about. Send us questions, leave comments and feedback, and we will also curate episodes to focus on answering the different questions that you bring up, so that we really, really bring value to you. So our first deep dive next week is really going to be in the area of personal investing. Now, we all know that at the moment there's a war that's going on in Europe. Everybody knows about the war on Ukraine. We've seen fuel prices. We've seen markets taking a tumble because of the war and different world events like COVID. So we really want to take a deep dive with Wedzi next week around what does that mean for you as a small business owner? What does it mean to invest in this space? What are the things that you need to be considering? What are the things that you need to maybe be staying away from? And really, more so than ever, you need to be seeking out that expert financial advice before making those huge financial decisions. So those are some of the things that we are going to be discussing next week, and we encourage you to bring in, leave your likes, your comments below, or leave any questions. We will give you details of how you can do that, and send them ahead of time so that we can discuss them with Wedzi and ensure that you're getting that feedback and that information directly from us. So Wedzi, thank you so much for being here, and we look forward to having you back next week as we take a deep dive into talking about personal finances. But before we go, can you please let people know where they can find a bit more information about A Better Way Financial Partners?
So if you want to find a bit more information about us, you can find us on our website, betterwayfp.com.au. You can also find us on Instagram at betterwayfp.com.au, or you can find us on LinkedIn, that's just A Better Way Financial Partners, and on Facebook it's also A Better Way Financial Partners.
Thanks for that, Wedzi. So I'm your host, Christine. Until next time, thank you. Bye-bye.